Ach, the T'au, the naive, weeaboo space communist of the grim dark future of Warhammer 40k. They have a small empire, barely a nuisance to other factions really. Their looks and theme doesn't really match the rest of the universe. And they use mecha. They are, quote-unquote, the good guys in the universe where there are none. Those are main problems in terms of the lore. In terms of gameplay on the tabletop, they are ass to play against. Because it's just a bloody firing line. Just a line of dudes with those pulse rifles and those bloody crisis battlesuits, and God Emperor protect us all from the bloody triptides and this rail cannon. In terms of books and stories, the T'au have Phil Kelly, who he isn't absolutely terrible. He isn't Ian Watson or Matt Ward, nor C.C. Goto, thank the heavens, but he isn't really that much of a good writer either. His stories are mid, at best.
I accepted the book and gave it a 5 out of 10. It was okay review.
All of that is a problem, and I accept the criticism of the T'au Empire. I agree with all of my heart. But I am also a creator, and I decided that I can write better T'au lore than Games Workshop. And so I went ahead with my T'au Empire Reimagined project, where I transformed the naive T'au Empire into young yet mighty T'auva coalition. But this series has 19 episodes and it's well over 22 hours of content. So, this video is for all those who don't want to go through the entire series and want to see what I came up with in a nutshell. So now it's my role to compress this 22-hour project into a single video. May the gods have mercy on my soul and my vocal cords. So, my dear listener, my name is Heretical Hatter, and this is how to make T'au better. Now, what is the main theme of the T'au Empire in canonical 40k? T'au Empire is new rising power in the galaxy. They are young by galactic standards, and they have only begun their expansion into the greater galaxy. They have rather advanced technology, which is continuously developed, and are in many ways painfully naive. They look like rather standard sci-fi faction, and they have mechs. They have also a theme of being this homogeneous group under influence of ethereals and ideology of the greater good. They are utilitarian, collectivists, caste-based society. Despite what memes claim, they aren't communists. Caste system is basically a total opposite of a communism. But because people have no idea what collectivists means, they just say communist, because once in school they heard about collectivization in the Soviet Union. I said it before, and I will say it again. If Karl Marx returned to the living, and you would show him the T'au and call them communist, he would punch you so hard in the face that your asshole would have teeth. And some of you might think that Karl Marx doesn't look that strong, that you can take that punch and fight back. But you see, when Karl Marx punches you, he is using the strength of the proletariat, all the bitterness, rage and hopelessness of every abused worker in Amazon warehouse or shoe factory or another mega corporation that sucks the joy of life out of people. All of this is transformed into physical force. The fact that Marx is punching you only so hard that your asshole has teeth is a kindness. For if he used all of his power, he would erase you out of existence as well as 12 generations of your predecessors and successors. Yes, his punch would take you forward in time so he could see the lives of future generations of your bloodline being erased because of your stupid actions. Then he would pull you back in time so he could see the same thing happening to your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on and so on. Then he would pull you along your entire life, erasing everything and anything that brought you even a shred of happiness. The first kiss, first time you hug a puppy, the first time you tasted your grandmother cooking, all of that turned into ash. And at the end, when you are kneeling, weeping and begging for forgiveness, only then he would erase you out of existence. Not even void would await you. You would disappear completely. No trace, no memory. Not one would weep at your demise, for none would remember you ever existed. This is the power of a proletariat. So do think again before calling T'au communist. So, about those blue weeboos. The T'au are, in general, more optimistic and good compared to other factions of the 40k. They aren't really grimdark, for which many people hate them. At least those who snort grimdark like coke and can't remember that Warhammer 40k was originally a parody. Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau was a thing, everyone. Do you remember Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau? I do. How could I forget this magnificent outfit? The physique, the beard, that charming smile. It almost makes you wonder how he would look No. Calm down. Calm down. That goes both for me and all those people who take 40k too seriously. Now, the question is, what changes I implemented to make T'au Coalition better than T'au Empire? The answer is a few. Okay, I get that some of you are confused. Let me explain. In my not so humble opinion, the main theme of the T'au Empire isn't bad for Warhammer 40k. Games Workshop is just complete ass with how this theme was presented. My main idea isn't, oh, T'au are the good guys. No. My idea is, Coalition is flickering light in the sea of darkness. And this has incredible value for 40k universe. And I will tell you why. The brighter the light, the deeper the darkness. The T'au, the Coalition, the greater good, their role in 40k shouldn't be focused around idea of how good the T'au are, but the contrast with horror of the greater galaxy. Coalition's role is to show everyone that things can be better, but because of fanaticism, of pride, or very nature of any given faction, this won't happen. What is more grimdark than being only hopeful place in the galaxy consumed by misery? The second thing is that this light, this hope, is in some ways a mask, hiding more than few dark pieces of the Coalition at large. Someone's utopia can be someone else's dystopia. showing that in some ways Coalition doesn't really matches their own ideas, that the darkness of 40k galaxy corrupts everything. But this darkness is subtle. The Coalition doesn't hold the darkness as the banner, it hides it, it is ashamed of it, because it is the opposite of their own ideas. How grimdark is that? To see the slow corruption and degradation of the idea of peace, unity and prosperity. To see how that shining banner of hope gets more and more dirty as darkness seeps into the light. The Coalition could show everyone that xenophobia of the Emperor was misguided, that there was a way for different species to live alongside each other, that the Imperium slaughtered an uncounted number of species without any other reason than xenophobia of one man. How many species were erased because of humanity for none other reason but misguided vision of reality of an immortal man that didn't understood the species he sought to protect. The Coalition shows that technology can move forward, which shows how deep and mad the stagnation of humanity really is. That this stagnation and obsession with ancient technology is a choice. The Coalition shows that worlds can be exploited without eradication of entire biosphere, showing that Forge worlds and Hive worlds are just another expression of human madness in 40k, and so on, and so on, and so on. The light of the Coalition is there to show how deep is the darkness of humanity. The Coalition's role is to empathize how far the humanity have fallen, how different and how twisted they are compared to humanity today, to the point that if someone outside of a fandom was asked in which faction they would like to live as a human, they wouldn't choose Imperium of Man, but Tauva Coalition. Coalition is new superpower to be, and they are on their way to replace Imperium of Man as dominant force in the galaxy. First were the Old Ones, then the Necrons, then Eldari, then Human Federation from Dark Age of Technology, then Imperium of Man, and now it's time for Coalition to take the dominant position within the Milky Way galaxy. And some of you might wonder, how is that grimdark? I will tell you. This change shows one thing: humanity has failed. The Emperor's dream is no more. It's a rotten corpse, just like the Imperium and the Emperor himself. Humanity failed their mission to be true rulers of the galaxy. We had our chance, and we wasted it. Hell, we had 2 chances. First during the Dark Age of Technology, and the second with the Emperor. We got more chances than most, and we wasted them both. The Human Federation from Dark Age of Technology, the time when our technological progress gave us power to rival creations of the Old Ones themselves. If we were wiser, we could have reached level of the Old Ones and Necrons both. The Cybernetic Revolt and our hubris of being reliant on the Men of Iron brought end to that age of prosperity. The Emperor in many ways attempted to bring back the glory of united humanity from that bygone era, trying to rekindle the light of human progress, avoiding the mistakes of the past. And he failed. Not even Return of the Primarchs can save what is left. The Imperium and humanity are doomed. Coalition once again takes role of contrast. There is someone else, someone better than us, who's taking our place. Coalition is just another proof that age of humanity is coming to an end. The end times are coming. The end of the Imperium is nigh, and the galaxy will move on, barely noticing our absence. Whatever is left, even if it started as a human, will evolve into something else, something new. That's the grim dark truth that so many people don't want to accept. We have failed. The T'au, the Coalition, the greater good, they won't be responsible for our doom. We did that to ourselves. They weren't even present when we landed mortal blows upon all of our hopes for the future. This bizarre alliance of xenos, they are merely the heralds of our last hour. The first light of a new dawn to humanity's dusk. We lived in darkness for millennia, and everything we ever were will be consumed by this darkness. When the new light will shine on this galaxy, what is left of the Imperium and humanity will hide in the shadows. Remnants of a bygone age. The age of a dark Imperium. So, that's my main idea regarding the core change with the theme. But there are others. One of the most important ones is the change of the name of a faction. Something that is not without a reason. If you think about it, basically every single faction in 40k is an ethnic empire. Imperium of Man have mankind. Mechanicus have cowboys. Sororitas have women. I'm joking. I'm sorry. Seriously, think about it. Basically, every empire in 40k galaxy was an ethnic empire. Imperium of Man unites all of humanity. The Elder Empire had all of space elves. The Necron Empire is full of Necrons. Orc empires are full of orcs. Tyranids are one singular organism. The T'au Empire was described as a commonwealth of numerous species, and yet 95% of lore and miniatures are the T'au themselves. A bit of Groot and even less of Vespet. Despite attempting to make them look like Far Eastern themed Commonwealth, Games Workshop made T'au into a bloody British Empire, one that uses auxiliaries as meat shields. So I've made some changes. Now the T'au Empire, or rather the United Authority, as it is known in my rewrite, is merely a part of the greater coalition. The founder and the leader of a coalition, sure, but still just a member. And there are many more members that add to coalition's strength. T'au don't have monopoly on that. Coalition is a faction that is united, not by species, but ideology. The coalition that has dozens of members, all with different interests, looks, doctrine, and way of doing things. Some have their own small empires that count dozens of worlds. It's not one species, one world thing. You know what that means? Diversity. Other species not only have presence, but also important role, not only on the battlefield, but in research, industry, navigation, politics, diplomacy, and more. Those other species are essential for the coalition. A lot of technology that coalition possess wasn't created by the T'au. The best example of that is coalition FTL drive, the skip drive. It was created by Nikasar, the floating psychic polar bears. Sure, T'au Earthcast were important in perfecting and advancing this technology, but they didn't create it. And same goes for myriad of species of the coalition. T'au have talent with combining and utilizing their own individual talents for the greater good of the coalition. This diversity is the greatest strength of the coalition. Additionally, now coalition can have proper political intrigue. The top of the T'au Empire intrigue was Ethereals or Watercast fucking someone over. Now things are different. There are many factions, not necessarily split by species, but by interest. We can have intrigue similar to that of Imperium of Man, as different factions compete for influence within the coalition. Coalition is a living, breathing organization. A significant change. In canonical 40k, in the T'au Empire, Ethereals controlled everything. They were in fact dictators of the T'au Empire, authoritarian to the point it was laughable. In the T'au Empire, Ethereal's word is law. Ethereal Council decided about basically everything. Do you know what Ethereal Council in effect was? They were High Lords of Terra of the T'au Empire. You could just call them High Lords of T'au, because T'au is both the name of the species and their homeworld. I see this as extremely lazy and stupid. Something that doesn't fit the image of the T'au or the ideology of the greater good one bit. So, in my rewrite, we have something known as High Coalition Council. And Ethereals are members and leaders of the council, sure, but their word isn't a law in the coalition. Ethereals and Ethereal Supreme have significant influence, but they aren't supreme power in the coalition. They don't have magical mind-controlling pheromones. They might have power of suggestion, but not full mind control. I see idea of mind-controlling pheromones as lazy. Achieving the same level of control by indoctrination and propaganda is far more sinister and grimdark, in my opinion, than stupid pheromones. It's just a very lazy and cheap answer to complex question. Other people, and especially other xenos, have influence and their own personal will. Each of them has their own equivalent of High Council led by their own Supreme, and they have the will of their own, taking care of internal and external matters, using their influence in politics. Coalition is military, economical, political, and ideological alliance of numerous species, all of them united in the name of four things: survival, security, prosperity, and expansion. Some of you might think that those changes make Coalition more of a good guys than the T'au Empire. You are mistaken. I want Coalition to have more subtle version of evil. This utilitarian society that focuses on the greater good of all doesn't accept greater good of an individual. Re-education camps are still a thing. Training to be obedient and follow rules is still a thing. Government arranging who you will have children with, echoing the dark images of Lebensborn, is still a thing. Only merit can give you path to greatness, but if your talents aren't needed, you won't achieve anything. Liberty is limited. It's an illusion. You can practice your faith as long as it is accepted by the greater coalition. Those who don't comply are sent to re-education camps or simply disappear, taken into the dark by the coalition's secret police. One that is more similar to moral police rather than that of Gestapo or KGB. Many will commit suicide with smile on their faces to show their devotion to the greater good. Indoctrination so deep that they are ready to take their own life or forsaken that of their loved ones. Dystopia doesn't need to proclaim to be one from the rooftops. And worst of all, dystopia can believe itself to be utopia. This is the grim darkness of a coalition, the darkness hidden behind the mask of light. Subtlety that doesn't need mind-controlling pheromones, just well put together propaganda, education and indoctrination from the moment of birth. Collision is place of order in the galaxy of chaos. But to keep order, one have a need for control. The last and probably the biggest change is that T'au and Coalition at large aren't half as naive as the T'au Empire. And some of you might be confused. After all, both T'au Empire and the Coalition are youngest powers in the Milky Way galaxy. That remains true, but the Coalition isn't young. Looking at the T'au alone, in my rewrite their civilization is almost 6,000 years old by the time they have first proper contact with the Imperium of Man. I know 6,000 years isn't impressive compared to 60 million of Necrons, but when compared to 10,000 years of the Imperium of Man, well, the T'au civilization existed for around half the period that Imperium did. Coalition itself as a faction is far younger, being established in 473 M38. So Coalition is around 3,000 years old compared to the Imperium. So that seems a bit laughable, but here is a thing. T'au aren't the only members of the Coalition. There are members of the Coalition that are far older than the T'au. Hell, some of them managed to survive the Great Crusade and escape into the Damocles sector, where they hid and survived until they encountered the Coalition and joined them. The T'au of the Coalition aren't naive because they have 6,000 years of history behind them. And Coalition isn't naive because combined experience of its members and the fact that they share this experience and knowledge makes them so much more powerful and so much more dangerous. That goes for the ignorance of the warp as well, something that Games Workshop didn't think about at all. Canonical T'au Empire has xeno psykers. More than a few. I mentioned Nikasar before. Psychic polar bears that created FTL drive that allows ships to skip the border between the real space and the warp, not mentioning the fact that Nikasar are navigators of the void. And they are one example of many species that either are psychic or have psykers in their ranks. So yeah, the T'au themselves don't have psykers and don't fully understand the warp. But they know it exists because their allies do. Games Workshop and Black Library ignored this fact. I will not. The Damocles Gulf Crusade won't be the first time Coalition met psykers. Hell, Coalition has combat psykers in their ranks. In terms of dangers of the warp, many things are kept secret, similar to the Imperium, but in general, people who should know what is going on know what is going on. So as you can see, changes in the themes of the T'au Coalition are subtle in some places and deep in others. In some ways, T'au Coalition makes good on promises of the T'au Empire. Coalition is a commonwealth of numerous species. It is a power in the galaxy. Some might think that I went too far in the direction of Covenant from Halo, and maybe you are correct, but I really try to not make it a copy. Coalition is united by ideology, not faith. Ethereals have a lot of power, but they aren't prophets. Coalition has advanced technology, but it isn't based on some ancient tech they are obsessed with, etc, etc. Personally, I am more focused on the idea that the T'au and the Coalition figured out the meta strategy how to fight against the grim darkness of the Warhammer 40k galaxy. And the answer is friendship. Ironically, having reliant friends and allies is the way to face the darkness of the Milky Way galaxy. Hate it if you want, but you know it just as well as me. But there are few horrors we can't face with friends on our side. You yourself have friends, I'm sure you do, and I know that tasks that seem impossible to deal with suddenly become nuisances if you brought your friends along to help. The ties of friendship are something incredibly powerful. There is a reason why armies around the world try to create bonds of brotherhood among the soldiers. Coalition uses the same logic but on far greater scale, making them far greater threat than many would expect. Even the greatest of beasts will fall if it's cut enough times. Humans of ancient times could bring down mammoths, animals they had no hope of killing in one-on-one fight. No single human of that time could defeat something like mammoth alone. But they weren't working alone. They had friends. They hunted the giants, they killed them, fed on their corpses, and created tents out of their furs and bones. Who knows? Maybe Coalition will unite many to kill the mammoth that is the Imperium. Maybe it will feed on its worlds and build something new out of the bones and the shell of this once mighty empire. Or maybe this old mammoth will crush those young hunters and live another day, spiting the universe with every step, daring it to try again. We don't know. That's the beauty of a storytelling of a grim dark universe of Warhammer 40k. Nothing is set in stone. In this universe, even gods can die. With all of that out of the way, let's move towards visual design. So, a bit controversial take. I absolutely love T'au design. There, I said it. I love how they look. On one hand, they look like a standard sci-fi faction, but in the universe where there is no other faction that looks like standard sci-fi, it's a bit unique. I like how smooth and blocky they are at the same time. In my opinion, they don't need to be redesigned. Just updated a little bit, in similar way how Space Marines and Terminators were updated for the new edition. They are basically the same, just better. Do the same for the T'au. Give them more options in terms of armors, helmets and even weapons. Just add a little bit more variety. And you know what? There's no real need for creating new designs, because fans already did it. Look at them! All fan creations, all keeping with T'au theme, and yet clearly different from what we know. So in general, I don't want to change their visual design. I think, unlike many, that it's fine. It just needs a slight update here and there and adding a bit of diversity to make it more interesting. And that is one major change in visual design. It's adding a clear presence of non-T'au, and more specifically, their weapons and technology. Here are two examples of art I commissioned: a Mekian and Tannin Void ships. Both are very different from what T'au are using, but they are using their technology. The same goes for units on the ground. More members of a coalition must be seen, all that have design clearly inspired by the T'au themselves, yet also clearly distinctive. Similar, yet different. All sharing the theme, yet not the exact look. This is what canonical T'au Empire needed, to show all the species and all of different technology and way it was adopted or implemented into existing systems among different species. I have, in fact, video planned where I will show all named species of the coalition I came up with, using, for the most part, art of magnificent Marcsimo, who decided to help me with the project. You can see some of his art now, and by the Golden Throne, I love all of it. I almost forgot. Coalition has over 50 member species. Half of them are named and have art, so yeah, the video about all species of the coalition will be long as well. But that's not the subject of this video. Let's move to the next point. Okay, so history. I won't give you details here because history of the coalition is like 90% of the Reimagined series. Me telling the expansive and deep history of the coalition. So I will give you only few important parts, and if you are interested, you can watch what I came up with. Let's start with the location. It is important. Coalition is located in Damocles sector, galactic north to the realm of Ultramar. Damocles sector was named that for a reason, because trying pass through it It's like passing under the sword of Damocles. In short, it's not ideal. It's full of anomalies, nebulas, and constant warp storms that keep on changing their shape. Colonization of the Imperium is limited at best and located within few stable gulfs in the chaotic region of Damocles sector. You will notice that I changed some names, going more with naval naming system. So Gulf are regions that ships can enter and where many ports can be found. Damocles sector is a region that is so full of anomalies that block any type of travel that it is basically avoided. One of the regions that wasn't really secured even during the Great Crusade, despite how close to Ultramar it was. We are talking about such density of anomalies that it was unheard of for any vessel of the Imperium to pass through the Damocles sector. All of them went around it. Going through it was a suicide even for the best of navigators. This region of space remained mostly unexplored and uncolonized because of the presence of so many anomalies for millennia, until the Reign of Blood, when around 36th millennium a massive warp storm appeared engulfing entire sector. The warp storm had a strange form. Almost all warp storms we see are vortex of chaos, like an Eye of Terror or Maelstrom, or they take form of a tear in reality. This is not a warp storm of Damocles sector. This warp storm took a form of a barrier surrounding the entire sector in bizarre circle and remained surprisingly stable warp storm for next few thousand years. Damocles sector was quite literally put into a bubble that very few would dare to breach. But there is something more important about this warp storm: its effect on the anomalies within the sector. This warp storm, known as the Crystal Barrier, sucked most anomalies into itself, ensuring that once chaotic and anomalous region of Damocles sector became suddenly mostly peaceful. Imperium, of course, had no idea. What they saw was a sector-size warp storm. They also didn't know about anomaly in the heart of a sector, known as the Broken Heart, formed in the very center of a storm. With most of the anomalies gone, species that remained hidden had now a chance to expand and grow in power. Now, a little warning, I made an entire series of this, so spoilers ahead if you want to see the Reimagined series. I will be skipping the details so you won't get too spoiled. The T'au were on the level of very early history, like first Mesopotamian cities, when the warp storm barriers started forming. An age of T'au, when they were slaughtering each other en masse. Age that ended when ethereals showed up and started their work to unite all tribes, right around the time when the barrier solidified. A coincidence, I'm sure of it. They united, secured their home system, and started colonization of new planets, even sent first ships into new star systems. This was the first sphere of expansion, age when the T'au didn't have FTL engines. This age came to an end when they made contact with Nikasar, a xeno species that was leading an alliance of few species against insectoid Moralians. They offered the T'au skip drive, and in exchange, T'au were to join the alliance against the Moralians. That's how second sphere of expansion began. Yes, one of the greatest changes to lore is simple. There were multiple expansions before the T'au met the Imperium, which makes sense. We are talking about thousands of years of history, And in canonical 40k, all of that is just first sphere of expansion. And they meet the Imperium. And now we are suddenly on the 5th sphere of expansion in relatively short period of time between first contact with the Imperium and current 40k timeline, which I see as total human Imperium centrist point of view and declare as stupid. Additionally, T'au have their own calendar, because why would they use human calendar? T'au year is shorter than Earth year, around 300 days, so you will notice that years pass a bit faster in their calendar compared to ours. Also, EOU stands for Era of Unity, counted from the year Ethereals showed up to unite the entire species. Alright? Moving on. During the second sphere of expansion, T'au joined the alliance against Moralians and scored a victory. But during the war, they managed to take over the alliance, and at the end of the war, now named First Coalition War, they transformed the alliance into the coalition. Yes, the initial alliance of Xenos wasn't even T'au idea, it was Nikasar idea, and they just took it over. With that you get the general understanding of coalition history. T'au are the leaders of it and fight for control, but the more they expand, the more species join, more species put their own influence into the system. If there is a big war, they call it Coalition War, and they count it classically First, Second, Third Coalition War, and so on and so on. To not bore you, on screen you can see the dates and number of expansions, plus how in general the coalition expanded through the years. But I think it's worth to mention few events for you to get to know coalition better. Just a few. If you want to know details, you're gonna watch the Reimagined series. Coalition had a Cold War with a faction known as Ostency Council, but thanks to Orc Wa that broke through the Warp Storm barrier and forced both factions to fight side by side, Coalition managed to take over economically and politically the Ostency Council, fusing entire state into the coalition. The 5th Coalition War was the most brutal war Coalition endured before meeting the Imperium. They fought against the Orcs. Again, 2 wargs at the same time, in fact. One coming from Galactic North and one from the south. They were very close to losing everything. We are talking about Orc forces being on the border of the first sphere of expansion, a stone throw from the T'au capital itself. One of the Orc war bosses they faced was Krampenheimer, leading his war from a space hulk named Krampageddon. Yes, I know, super original name. But hey, I had fun with 5th Coalition War. War that was so brutal that Coalition announced First Age of Security. Yeah, they were so wounded after that war that they stopped their expansion to fortify their borders and really prepare for the next move. Next example, in 7th Coalition War, they fought against the Nagi, mind-controlling psyker worm xenos that were followers of Chaos God Tzeentch. Yes, Coalition fought against forces of Chaos more than once. Nagi weren't the first, nor the last. Next, during Second Age of Security, Coalition built fully artificial Septworld, a size of a small moon, and they are making plans to make it FTL capable. It was an achievement of entire age, something that was a dream centuries before, brought to reality in this form. It's not a Death Star and it's not a phalanx, alright? But it is a great city and manufacturing center that might get ability to move soon enough. By the time Coalition established contact with Imperium of Man, they were preparing for 6th sphere of expansion, which gives proper feeling that Coalition has some experience already. This isn't their first rodeo, although because 40k is 40k and symbolism is a thing, Damocles' Gulf Crusade will be known as 13th Coalition War. Yes, my darlings! Imperium experienced its 13th Black Crusade. Why not play the good old irony of Warhammer 40k and make Imperial Crusade a 13th Great Conflict for some other faction? But 13th Coalition War won't be as devastating for Coalition as 13th Black Crusade was for the Imperium. And reason for it is simple. Coalition is far, far stronger than the T'au Empire. Damocles sector itself is very densely colonized for numerous reasons. First is the nature of Coalition FTL, the escape drive, which isn't reliant on warp currents. And those are important for Imperial trade and establishing stable warp lanes throughout the galaxy. There is a reason why some worlds thrive and some don't in the Imperium, and warp currents are very important to it. Not all Imperial vessels have navigators. Great portion of transport and merchant ships are making so-called calculated jumps using warp currents to get where they need to go. Skip drive, while far slower than warp drive, isn't reliant on warp currents. Add to that the fact that Tau are really good in terraforming, and that with how many different species there are, worlds that would be considered inhabitable by the Tau or humans would be perfect colony material for some other xenos. And you suddenly get great density of colonized worlds in Damocles sector. How great? Well, by the time of Damocles' Gulf Crusade, Coalition was approaching such size that they would be twice as big as famous realm of Ultramar and its 500 worlds. Now, before you start screaming power fantasy, hear me out. Canonical T'au Empire had between 100, maybe 300 worlds, and those are optimistic projections. That is nothing compared to official 1 million worlds of the Imperium. As far as we know, before Cadia fell and Galaxy was split in half, Imperium could possess 1.5 million worlds, if not millions. We have no idea. The 1 million worlds line is disputed by more than few books. As far as we know, it might be something said to the masses of the Imperium that can't comprehend bigger numbers. So with that in mind, 100 or 1000 worlds isn't that much of a difference. Imperium is still beyond massive. Coalition, just like T'au Empire, is minuscule in comparison. But what those almost 1000 worlds makes the Coalition that the T'au Empire isn't. T'auva Coalition is now a regional power. It means that while it can't challenge the Imperium, it can challenge the neighboring sectors. And remember, Coalition is surrounded on all sides. The realm of Ultramar is one of multiple sectors they have to deal with. Imperium still outnumbers them in terms of worlds, counting planets in neighboring sectors alone. The fact that Coalition has close to 1000 worlds has also a bit different connotations compared to the Imperium. Coalition doesn't possess Forge worlds or Hive worlds. Oh sure, they have worlds, even special classification of worlds called mandates, that aren't self-sustaining and need support from outposts and other worlds to remain stable. But the biggest mandate is nothing close to a Forge world or a Hive world. Despite the number of planets Coalition possess, their population isn't greater than neighboring sectors. Even with 1000 worlds, they are still outnumbered. But they can now be seen as a real threat, and not something Imperium can deal with a snap of their fingers. Coalition might not have Forge worlds and Hive worlds, but they lack feudal or feral worlds as well. The Coalition is overall far more efficient than the Imperium. Their worlds are more balanced. There is no star system in the Coalition that isn't self-sufficient. Their FTL might be slower, but it is consistent. Resources arrive on time, and production never slows down. Additionally, thanks to numerous xeno species in the ranks, Coalition has ability to answer most threats. Most people don't know this, but canonical T'au Empire has a xeno species known as Vorg. Vorg are Titan-sized xenos. We don't see them in the lore at all. Coalition has Vorg as well. We will see them. Oh, we will see them, and I assure you that Imperial Knights and Titans won't enjoy this meeting. Coalition isn't a naive child. They fought in over a dozen great wars, exterminated more than few species, and committed genocides and planetary exterminations on mass scale. We are talking about extermination of entire subsector, to the point that if Tyranids arrived there, they would have nothing to eat. They would starve there. Coalition has a lot of experience, a lot of allies, and a lot of weapons. Imperium is a mighty and more than worthy foe, but Damocles' Gulf Crusade won't be a one-sided slaughter. It will be a struggle for both sides, a brutal war that ended quickly because of Tyranid invasion, but one that both sides wanted to come to an end, Imperium and the Coalition. At least this is what I want to show you all in my rewrite of Damocles' Gulf Crusade. I am far from ready, but I want to make it proper war, show proper love and respect to both Imperium and the Coalition. And most importantly, I want to show that Coalition and the Imperium are even match in this region. The Tauva Coalition would be considered a regional power, not a nuisance like the T'au Empire, but an actual threat, but one too problematic to easily deal with. This gives Coalition a new look. It's not a minor faction that was made into major one to sell models. It's a coalition of numerous minor factions, minor xenos, uphumans and mutants that united under the banner of greater good to stand against the darkness of the galaxy. Now, Tabletop Coalition would need to be completely remade. And I mean from almost ground up, because Coalition Army will be focusing on diversity of units, not bloody mechs. This allows Coalition Army to be played in a very diverse way, because with different members of the Coalition, you can choose your playstyle. In fact, Coalition Army would have the most diverse number of options how one wishes to play. You can have Tau-focused mecha gun army, but that's just one of the choices. You want a swarm army? You go with a Moralian Death Swarm. Those insects gonna rush your enemies and show them what biotech and standard tech combined into one can do to people. Tyranids will be confused facing them, I can assure you. You want normal melee units? Well, Tyrellians got their homeworld virus bombed by the Imperium. I am sure they will be happy to show those guardsmen that dwarves aren't only people who hold grudges. You need some heavy-hitting melee units? Ranhorn are here to work as equivalent of Ogryns in melee combat. Orcs will learn to keep clear out of space right away. Want to deal with knights? Domati are giant Chinese dragon psychers, and Vork are basically kaiju, so you have options there. Rip those chaos knights to pieces, their dark gods won't keep them safe. Do you want heavy-hitting, fast-moving attackers? Rehichi are predators from a world with megafauna and flora that was transformed into Fallout New Vegas. They can show those Astartes that there is more than one true predator in this galaxy. Want to play fast attack? Well, Vespid are always good choice, but now Tanin can come in to support them. Eldar won't be able to outrun you this time. Light skirmish? Well, Krut were always cool, but now you can add Naschu, the space rodents, as support. Catch Drukhari with their pants down with open beak and sharp claw. You want Psychers on the field? Nikasar and few other species can give you all the magic you need on the field. Thousand Sons will have to work hard to score a proper victory. You playing Apocalypse scale game? Mix them all together and show everyone the true power of friendship. And plasma rifles. Coalition Army would be great for new players, allowing them to have fun with very diverse range of models, weapons and ways to play. Coalition Army would allow players to choose their doctrine and specialize in one thing or don't specialize at all. It could be seen similar to Space Marine armies, as an army with many diverse playstyles, but with more diversity in terms of shape of the models, so a bit more challenging but also a lot more fun to paint. But remaking an entire army might be too much, so there is a second solution. If Games Workshop really wants to keep the T'au Empire separate, just add a new army called Coalition Forces or something, which would work similar to Genestealer army. You can play Genestealers and Tyranids together, just like you can take Imperial Guard and add Titan to the mix. If you want to keep armies separate, you get Mecha Gun Army of the Tau and Coalition Forces Army full of Xenos that have diverse range of weapons and tactics. And if you want, you can mix them together. I would prefer Coalition Army as a singular thing, but I am open other options. So, that's basically it. My vision how to fix Tau. How to make them better faction, more interesting faction, in lore and tabletop both. I know that this is a long video, but it's really bloody hard to compress 22-hour series and many other ideas into a short video. I apologize if I was mumbling too much, but I hope I managed to make my point clear and show all of you how my reimagined vision of T'au Empire, the Tauva Coalition, would make into far more interesting addition to Warhammer 40k universe, while keeping the core concepts of original intact. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you have questions, put them in the comments. I will do my best to answer all of them. Next thing I will be preparing will be a video of all named species of the Coalition. But it will take some time. I might make it a separate playlist giving every species an individual video. A shorter one. After that, I will continue preparations for my Damocles Crusade rewrite. So wait for this as well. I will try to make it more narrative driven, with characters and drama and narrative that will show the epic scale of 40k. Anyway, I believe this is all for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!